Shalom, Sanborn. My name is Mpumelelo. When I was young, we used to celebrate Guy Fawkes. Now, Guy Fawkes was celebrated around, South Africa. And many of us were celebrating Guy Fawkes without knowing what we were celebrating. Where does this celebration come from? And what is the purpose of remembering a person called Guy Fawkes? We celebrated it on the 5th of November every year without fail. It was throughout South Africa. This celebration was interrupted by the 1980s, 1990s student and youth uprisings, and it died. And it died without people knowing what it was and what was its meaning. Why were we celebrating it? We also celebrated things like, and these are alive today, these celebrations, things like Valentines Day. They don't seem harmful, of course, because Valentine is associated with love and so on. And so it's celebrated. And so, you wear red and you do all sorts of things. And again, amongst black people, none of us bothers to ask questions. What are these celebrations? Where do they come from? And why do they have so much influence on our lives? Halloween is another foreign celebration that you also find. It is fast overtaking some of our cultures here. It starts in our mixed schools, and before you know it, it is part of the celebrations that we do. But we don't know what Halloween is. We don't know what its significance is. I have no problem with anyone elsewhere who knows what it is and who's celebrating it consciously. Mind you, if you go to America, African Americans are celebrating it also naturally as if it's something that they know. And they have owned it. It has become part of their culture. It is foreign. We don't know these things. The other thing that our women folk today would die for, if you don't do it, you are as good as not have, okay, let's get to the point here. It's white, it's something that is called white wedding. If a woman is not married that way, in a white dress and all sorts of practices related to white wedding, you are not regarded as having gotten married. Again, who can explain among black people, at least? I think those who know what white wedding is, they can explain what it is. They can explain why they have brides, maids, and groomsmen, or whatever they call it. Why you have to be flanked by these people, and why there has to be girl flowers and boy something. Why there has to be a bouquet and all these traditions that are un-African, that have nothing to do with us as black people, but we have embraced them. And it's got nothing to do with globalization, by the way. These things have long been there before we were exposed to the world. The cultures that are brought to us by foreigners, and we end up embracing them. And in the process, we abandon our own practices, our own cultures. Similarly, Christianity also brought its own corruption of scripture, celebrating things like Christmas, abandoning the Sabbath day, celebrating it on Sunday. And these are unbiblical things. But we have taken them as black people without question, and we have listened to the reasoning of foreigners, and we explain their reasoning, and we explain why we are doing these things. These things are unscriptural. They are not in the Bible, but we celebrate them anyways. What is my point here? My point is that our history as black people is systematically erased and replaced by foreign practices. Whilst we lose our history, our identity, and our culture, nobody else in the world, whilst they want us to believe that it is because of globalization that we must embrace other people's cultures. They are not embracing anyone else's culture, not our culture. They are not embracing any of it. But our culture is systematically erased. That's why even in the corporate world and even in our our governments, we dress up like our foreigners in a suit and a tie. We look like Prince Harry. We speak like him. Our laws are based on their laws. Our history is written by them. I think that we have lost our pride as a people. We have lost our dignity. We are being defined by other people. And I want to argue here that it is because we have lost ourselves. We have lost our identity. That's why we are embracing other people's identities. That's why we are mimicking other people. That's why we are celebrating what they are celebrating. We have lost it. And we need to regain that. We need to re-educate our children, but re-educate ourselves first, because if you are a nation or a people and we are lost, how do you even begin to educate your children? You need to start with yourself. Our history is told by foreigners. For a long time here in South Africa, we don't have history books that are written by South African black people. And I want to believe that it is the case in Africa. We're experiencing the same thing. Our law is based on foreign law. We're trapped in this international criminal court, which has got nothing to do, which is aimed actually at putting African leaders in jail and those that the West doesn't like. Now, as a nation, we need to restore our pride. We will not be respected by anyone if we have nothing to show. Some time ago, our students were on the streets demonstrating against decolonialization of education. But I don't think that, I don't know whether they have conceptualized what they want to see happening. In the first place, I believe that we are fighting the battle in the wrong place, because these universities, they don't need to be transformed. They were built for a purpose, a certain purpose. So we need to create and build our own universities where we will have our own curriculum, a curriculum that will teach our children the right things that they need to learn, where our history, our laws will have to be written by our people. Our story needs to be told by our people. Forget about decolonizing universities, decolonizing education when you are in an institution that was created for its purpose. It's not yours. I look at black vice chancellors who are trying to bring about transformation. Where? Transformation in a place where it was not intended. You can bring transformation in an institution that you created. It's like looking for employment, walking around looking for employment, and you find a company that is written Van Zyl and Sons. And they employ you there. You work. After 2 years of working, you feel that you are competent enough to be a CEO of that company. Come on. You saw when you walk into that building, it's written Van Zyl and Sons, or Viljoen and Sons, or Oosthuizen and Sons. You will never be a CEO in that company. Forget it. You are not going to transform that company. It's a family business. And so are these universities. And so are these schools that we have not transformed. We can't transform them because they were meant to create a labor force. That is their purpose. They were meant to erase your history. You can't decolonize it. So we have a problem here. And it's not only us here in Africa. It is throughout the world where black people are. In America, that's why there are campaigns such as Black Lives Matter. Those campaigns are meant to raise awareness that the lives of black people matter. They are being shot at, they are insignificant lives. We had the same situation during apartheid where black people were just killed and there was no investigation as to why a black person is killed. There would not even be an inquiry. So the police had the right to pull a trigger at any given point. Out of shame and embarrassment in America, they are beginning to investigate these things. And I've not heard of any police officer who's serving time because of that. I think they're just expelled. So they haven't addressed the problem. So you can shoot at a black person and you'll just lose your job. And I think that they quietly restore your pension and all your benefits. So, unless we address the basics here, we need to stop adopting cultures and traditions that don't belong to us. We can't restore our pride, our identity, our being, unless we do the basic things. It explains why the things that we do don't make sense. When a black person gets his first million, he buys an expensive car and pose on Instagram and show it off. And it's almost like his mind is raised for a second, because then he tells the world that he has millions and then he doesn't pay his taxes. And the taxman comes and takes everything that he has. And then he cries and says, hey, guys, help me out. It's embarrassing the way we do things. It's just embarrassing. But it's because this was created. It's not a mistake. It was done so that we live such lives that are messy. So we need to begin to reorganize ourselves here. We could have destroyed apartheid in less than a year, but we kept it alive. There was no need for sanctions to be imposed on South Africa. If we were united as black people, if we stopped buying from all the companies of which are owned by white people, and support our own black brothers and sisters who have their own shops that we walk past and drive past and not support. The same thing is happening here. We have people who are talented, who are designers, others own supermarkets, others own all sorts of businesses. We drive past them. We go to them only if it is convenient. And we often complain and want a cheaper price from them, killing their businesses. But we don't mind paying 20,000 rands for a bag of Louis Vuitton. And we buy it on credit. I think some of the things that we do are shameful. I think we need to do some introspections and look deep into ourselves. We need to transform the way we think, the way we look at ourselves, and the things that we do. We shouldn't take pride at celebrating things that we, at least, if we are going to celebrate those things, let's do some research and know what we're celebrating. Let's bring some pride into our lives. Thank you very much. I can say a lot and I can be emotional about it. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Make your comments. Make suggestions of what other things that are irritating you that we do. And let us slowly rebuild ourselves. Asante sana. Ngiyabonga. Goodbye.